Welcome, friends. In a luxurious restaurant, the lights glow warmly. Laughter echoes from the background, where three men in suits smirk and watch. They had set the janitor up as a cruel joke, forcing him to sit across from a stunning woman, the powerful female CEO. Everyone expected humiliation. The janitor sat nervously, his rough hands trembling as he tried to hide the embarrassment in his eyes. He whispered, "I don't belong here." His heart sank as the men at the other table chuckled, raising their glasses at his expense. But then the CEO leaned forward. Her voice cut through the whispers and laughter. "No," she said firmly. "You belong here more than anyone. Do you know why? Because dignity and kindness are worth more than money. And tonight I choose respect over mockery." The restaurant grew silent. The men in suits lowered their glasses, shame flooding their faces. The janitor's eyes welled with tears as the CEO reached across the table and gently held his hand. "Sometimes the greatest people are hidden in the simplest clothes," she added. Her words carried weight, echoing in every heart in the room. Strangers who overheard felt their own eyes blur with tears. The janitor, overwhelmed, could barely speak. For the first time, he wasn't invisible. For the first time, he was valued. And in that moment, the cruel joke turned into a powerful lesson of humanity. Friends, never judge someone by their job, their clothes, or their status. True worth lies in the heart. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this story only on Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The janitor sat at the table, his heart racing. The white tablecloth, the glittering chandelier above, the polished glasses of wine. All of it felt like a world he didn't belong to. His rough hands trembled as he picked up the menu, but he couldn't even read it properly. He whispered under his breath, "What am I doing here? I don't belong." At the other table, the three men in expensive suits laughed quietly, pretending to sip their drinks. But their smirks were loud enough. This was all their plan, to humiliate the janitor, to prove that he was out of place. The female CEO, sitting across from him, noticed everything. She saw his nervous eyes, his shaking hands, and the cruel amusement of the men in the background. For a moment she stayed silent, watching him struggle, but then her heart softened. She leaned forward, her voice calm but full of strength. "You don't need to be afraid. You are not here as a joke. You are here as a man who deserves respect. Look at me," she said gently, and when he raised his tearful eyes, she smiled warmly. "You've worked harder than any of those men laughing at you. You clean the floors they walk on. You shine the rooms they boast about. Without people like you, this world would collapse. Never think you are less." The janitor's lips trembled, his chest tightening with emotions he had buried for years. His eyes filled with tears as he tried to speak, but no words came out. And in that moment, the laughter from the back table began to fade. The restaurant grew quiet, and even strangers began to notice the cruel prank was transforming into something far greater, something unforgettable. Friends, respect is not about status, it is about humanity. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this story only on Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The restaurant grew tense as the laughter from the back table refused to die down. The three men in suits, the ones who had staged the cruel prank, whispered among themselves, clearly enjoying the janitor's discomfort. They expected him to run away in shame, but something else was about to happen. The female CEO stood up slowly, her elegant presence commanding silence across the entire room. She looked directly at the men and said, "Do you think you're powerful because of your suits? Because of your wealth? Power means nothing if it is built on mocking others." Everyone in the restaurant turned to listen. Her voice was sharp, but her eyes held compassion. She continued, "This man you call a joke is more honorable than any of you. While you laugh at him, he works hard every day so that others can live in dignity. He is not a joke. He is the very strength this society stands on." The janitor, still seated, stared at her in disbelief. His hands shook, but this time it was not from shame. It was from the overwhelming realization that someone finally saw him. Tears filled his eyes as the CEO placed her hand on his shoulder and said softly, "You are not less than anyone here. In fact, you are greater because humility and hard work make a man truly rich." The entire restaurant erupted in applause. Even the waiters, standing by the walls, clapped with tears in their eyes. The three men who had staged the joke sank into their seats, ashamed, unable to meet anyone's gaze. At that moment the janitor whispered with a trembling voice, "No one has ever spoken for me like this." His words broke the silence, and the CEO simply smiled, replying, "Then let this be the night you finally believe in your worth." Friends, never forget, true greatness shines when the world tries to dim your light. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this story only on Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The restaurant stood in complete silence. The three men in suits who had orchestrated the cruel prank sat frozen, their smug smiles gone, replaced by guilt and shame. The janitor's eyes shimmered with tears, his heart pounding louder than the laughter that had mocked him just moments ago. But the female CEO wasn't done. She rose to her feet, her voice echoing through the room like a bell of truth. "Let me tell you something," she began, her gaze sweeping across the diners who were now hanging onto her every word. "Years ago I was nothing. I had no money, no family, no one to support me. And do you know who helped me? A janitor, a man just like him. When I was struggling in school, he gave me food from his own lunchbox. When I cried in the empty hallways, he told me I was worth something. Without him, I would not be the woman I am today. Tonight, I see that same strength in this man." Gasps filled the air. The janitor's mouth opened slightly, his entire body shaking. He whispered, almost to himself, "Someone like me changed your life?" The CEO's eyes glistened as she nodded. "Yes, and maybe tonight. You will change someone else's. Maybe you'll change all of us. Because the truth is, greatness does not wear a suit. Greatness is in the heart." The audience in the restaurant began clapping, then cheering, some with tears rolling down their cheeks. Even the waiters and kitchen staff stepped forward, applauding with emotion. The three men lowered their heads in shame, unable to look at anyone, their arrogance shattered. The janitor stood slowly, his tears streaming freely now. "I've been invisible my whole life," he said, his voice trembling but strong. "But tonight you made me feel seen. You gave me dignity." The CEO stepped closer, gently taking his hand in hers. "No one gave you dignity," she whispered. "You already had it. All I did was remind everyone else." And at that moment, the cruel prank transformed into the most powerful lesson of humanity, one that none of them would ever forget. Friends, never underestimate the value of kindness. It has the power to turn tears into strength and shame into honor. Like, subscribe, comment, and share this story only on Soul of Kindness. Welcome, friends. The restaurant stood still, every heart heavy with emotion. The janitor, once mocked as a joke, now stood tall beside the female CEO, his eyes filled with tears that carried years of silent pain and struggle. The cruel laughter of moments ago had been silenced, replaced by respect, awe, and shame. The CEO turned to the entire crowd. Her voice broke with emotion, but carried the strength of truth. "Tonight, you have all witnessed something unforgettable. Status and money may buy you luxury, but kindness and dignity, they buy you hearts, and that is the wealth no one can ever take away." She then looked back at the janitor and, in a voice trembling with sincerity, said, "I came here tonight expecting another business dinner, but instead, I met the most genuine man in this room. You are the reminder this world needs, that greatness is not about power, but about humility." Tears streamed down the janitor's face. His knees weakened and he struggled to find words. Finally, with a trembling voice, he whispered, "All my life I thought I was invisible, but tonight, because of you, I finally believe I matter." The moment was overwhelming. People around the room broke into tears. Some guests walked over, shaking the janitor's hand, apologizing, thanking him for his unseen service. Even the three men who had mocked him stood up. Ashamed, their arrogance stripped away. One of them murmured, "We were wrong. Forgive us." The CEO smiled and raised her glass. "To the invisible heroes who make this world brighter even when no one notices." The entire restaurant joined in, raising their glasses high. The janitor stood there, overwhelmed, his tears now turning into a smile. For the first time in his life, he wasn't a shadow, he was the light. Friends, remember this final lesson. Never judge a person by their job. their clothes, or their status. Sometimes, the ones the world overlooks carry the greatest strength and the purest hearts. Like, subscribe, comment and share this story only on Soul of Kindness.